SS Jane Miller was built in 1879 for James Miller and Sons. The Miller was used as a small package freighter along the Bruce Peninsula and North Channel of Georgian Bay. The Miller had a tonnage of 210 tons. She had a length of 78 feet, a beam of 18 feet, and for installed power she had a wood-fired steam engine, and she could support a crew of up to 10 crew members. In September of 1879, the Miller collided with the schooner Mountaineer at night on Owen Sound. The Mountaineer was badly damaged in the collision. After the collision event, the next reported thing for the Miller was that she was sold to Andrew Port in June of 1880. The Miller was to be used in general freight service along the south shore of the Georgian Bay, the east side of the Bruce Peninsula, and finally, Manitou Island. On the afternoon of November 25, 1881, the Jane Miller departed Owen Sound with her usual load of cargo. The Miller arrived in Medford, or Meaford, if I'm saying that correctly, and there were 30 additional tons of cargo which was added to her. Much of this was stored on the deck. As the Jane Miller departed from Medford in the late afternoon, she was headed for Spencer's Wharf near Wyerton. Not long after this, a blizzard began to blow, with winds from the southwest. These strong gusts and rough seas required the Miller to stop at Big Bay for additional cordwood for fuel. The Miller then departed Big Bay between 8 and 9 p.m. An eyewitness saw the Jane Miller pass White Cloud Island and enter Colpoys Bay. As the Miller approached Spencer's Wharf, the blizzard then grew in intensity for only a few minutes. Finally, after some time, the snow subsided. However, the Jane Miller was nowhere to be seen. There was not a single trace of her, and the Jane Miller had little to no permanent ballast on board. She instead relied on the weight of fuel and cargo in her hold to keep her properly trimmed. It is, however, speculated that the blizzard had resulted in the Jane Miller consuming more of her fuel than normal. That, combined with the extra cargo loaded at Medford, this more than likely made the Miller top-heavy. As the storm increased, especially over those several minutes, in the intensity of the Colpoys Bay, with the strong gusts of wind, it is surmised that this may have caused her to flip over on her side, causing her sinking within minutes. On December 4th, 3 men started to row from near Spencer's Wharf towards White Cloud Island to see if they could find any trace of the Jane Miller or her crew. About half a mile northeast of Spencer's Wharf, they discovered a patch of discolored water with air bubbles rising to the surface. Bearings from certain points on shore were made, and the position was later determined to be very close to the last known observed location of the Jane Miller. The 3 men continued to row onto Cloud Island, and they found in a bay several items, including oars, some pins of a lifeboat, a piece of a mast, and a steamer's gangplank. The tugboat Tommy Wright dragged along the area to find the wreckage of the Jane Miller. However, it was unsuccessful, and soundings revealed that there were depths greater than 33 fathoms, which is 198 feet, or 60.35 meters in the area. In total, with the sinking of the SS Jane Miller, 28 people lost their lives as she went down. Some great news: the wreck of the Jane Miller was actually discovered on July 27, 2017 by a shipwreck hunting crew made up of Jared Daniel, Jerry Elizon, and Ken Merriman. They were operating with a permit issued by the Ontario Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport. The discovery of the Miller was announced on November 25, 2017. This would be the 136th anniversary of the Miller's sinking. The Miller is upright in over 100 feet of water. The pilot house, smokestack, and upper deck cabins, however, have collapsed, but the hull is mostly intact, from what they have reported. Also, the mast and 3 lifeboat davits are still in place. The permit that the crew had for surveying the wreck of the Miller did not allow them to enter inside of her. However, Daniel reported seeing 16 bodies inside of the Miller. Ken Merriman admitted that he was, however, unsure if he himself had seen any human remains, because the Miller is so encrusted with zebra mussels, making identification of such things difficult, to say the least. There was also another investigation of the Miller by divers from the Ontario Provincial Police and Canadian forces. However, they reported that they did not see any human remains. And that is the story of the SS Jane Miller, caught up in a tragic snow blizzard trying to make her way to her destination. Yeah, that definitely does not surprise me, getting caught off guard like that and vanishing within minutes, especially with the wind gusts and the size of the waves that were probably crashing into her. And it sounds like, yeah, she was definitely off balance with the amount of fuel for her, and that vessel that they were burning probably played a lot of factors into her sinking. She probably was, overloaded maybe, because that definitely is not a unheard of thing for these vessels way back then, being overloaded. But that's also curious too, that one of the divers that found her, Daniel, did he really see 16 bodies floating in her? We know on this channel that itself, in and of itself, is not an uncommon thing to find when we come upon these vessels, is unfortunately the remains of the crew or passengers that were on them when they went down at the time. It isn't just Lake Superior that has this, but it's an unfortunate thing when you find these vessels. But tell me what you guys think down in the comments below about the Jane Miller. She was a smaller vessel, but dang, 28 people went down with her, and very tragic to hear. But I have no less regard or sympathy and honor wanting to be given to her and those lives lost. But I thank you guys for listening to me for this long on this episode of Songs of the Great Lakes. Again, as always, I do appreciate any likes, comments, subscriptions, all of that good stuff for the channel to help it grow. And until next time, I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day. God bless you all.